Welcome on into another edition of Nate Hit the Foul Pole. It is officially opening day. 2020 opening day has arrived. Zach, what are your initial thoughts for this opening day for the Orioles?
Extremely excited. This is what I've been waiting for since March. This is a long time coming. I loved the exhibition games the other day. I thought that this week was a lot of fun. Getting to sit around and look forward to an O's game all day is something I haven't experienced for a while. So I'm just so glad baseball's back, and I enjoyed watching the Yankees last night. So looking forward to the O's tonight.
So if you wanted to introduce our guest for today's episode.
Yeah, so today we have an ESPN and Fangraphs writer, Dan Szymborski. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going today?
Going well.
Really good, really good. So Dan, a lot of our viewers know that you might be from Baltimore and that you kind of grew up an O's fan. What do you kind of see for this 2020 O's season?
Well, at any point, the fact that we have baseball in itself is a victory. And when we talk about actual games, on the other hand, I don't think anybody really thinks otherwise. But I mean, the Orioles are not going to be a good team this year. The what they're trying to do this year is make progress in the rebuild. It's not going to be a situation where they surprise very much this year because there's still a pretty big talent deficit, and some of the players they do have, they don't have at the moment. So this is, from a win-loss standpoint, this isn't going to be the most exciting season. It'll be very 1988-ish.
So speaking of the Orioles season, Dan, I was actually looking at one of your latest posts on Fangraphs, and you were talking about the Zips projections. And the Orioles do have that 1.5% chance of making the playoffs. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it feels weird, but then you look at it and it's 60 games. And in 60 games, a lot of odd things can happen. And there are a lot of teams that can make the playoffs. Even before they reconfigured the playoffs, the on opening day, which seems to be a whole other thing, a whole catalog of disorganization. It's not likely, but I mean, the Orioles do have a slim chance of just enough things going right that they can, get a little over 500, and enough teams are poor that they just sneak in. But I mean, I don't think anyone would think that it's a team that's ready to compete right now, and it'll just be dumb luck in a way. I think, 2021, 2022 and on, those are going to be the more interesting seasons in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's all about right now with the player development and growing this talent base and the talent pipeline. But what do you see as far as this roster goes? Who do you like? Who kind of stands out as a guy who has really nice projections for this year?
I think a lot of what it comes down to is who they end up playing, because you look at the roster right now and you don't really have a lot of the interesting guys, the interesting prospects who are kind of at the back of the roster. I mean, there's no Adley Rutschman yet. There's no, Grayson Rodriguez or DL Hall or anything, or I don't think they're on the active roster unless I've missed them.
Not yet.
But those are the kind of guys you want to see get into games. And I hope the team is aggressive with it. I know there's always a desire to not start a player's service time clock, but the fact is this is a season where there's no minor league baseball. There will likely be some kind of fall baseball, but you don't want to make it a lost season. You want guys playing games. So I do hope that they're aggressive getting some of these arms into games, because when it comes to rebuilding, I mean, players like Wade LeBlanc and Tommy Malone, I mean, they'll get us through games, but they're not really going to be part of the next good Orioles team. And you really want to see as many of those players as you can and give them as much experience as possible against, major league pitching or major league hitting in the case of the pitchers. You want to see that kind of experience go to these players without a minor league season to do it in.
So looking back at the Zips projections, the Orioles have the highest percentage total to get the number one pick in 2021, just shy of 25%. Do you see any other teams really challenging them for that number one overall pick?
There are possibilities. The Tigers could be that bad. The Marlins, if the pitching goes particularly bad or badly, or if the offense just doesn't come together, they could also be competition. Maybe the Pirates, maybe the Giants. I think the Orioles are the favorite because you look at the roster and there really isn't a lot of now talent. I mean, some of the players that the Orioles would have counted on. Trey Mancini, of course, is recovering from cancer. He has more important things to worry about. John Means is starting the season on the IL. Hunter Harvey is, I'm not even sure if he still exists, but he's injured too. It's just a franchise that doesn't have a lot of talent right now for 2020. And I guess in a way, if you had to pick a year where you were just going to be at the bottom of the league, 2020 is not a bad year to do it in. It's such a weird year anyway. Mm-hmm. I think you'd prefer to be last place in 2020 than say 2021, when hopefully things will be closer to normal. I mean, I'm not crossing my fingers yet.
Yeah, so I want to know what you kind of think about Austin Hayes. He's one of my personal favorite players. He is my favorite player, and I expect a big season from him. I'm even looking at a possible AL Rookie of the Year. Do you feel that same way?
He is a contender. I think Luis Robert is still the favorite in Chicago, but Hayes does have enough power. I think he'll get on base enough. He was really good in his cup of coffee in 2019. I don't think he's this good, obviously, but he did have like a 940 something OPS in a couple dozen games for the Orioles at the end. So he is a possibility, and he is one of the guys you do want to see get as much playing time as possible. He's had kind of an up and down career health wise. He was probably called up too early in 2017. If he could stick in center, that would be a big help to the team. But he is one of the more interesting players on the team just because of his power.
So you're a writer for Fangraphs. Fangraph writers tend to look at some of more advanced numbers compared to some other publications. Do you see any, I guess I could call them analytics darlings on the Orioles that people wouldn't necessarily think of?
I'm not sure I'd call him an analytical darling, right. But when Alex Cobb has been healthy at those periods of his career and his splitter has been working, he's been a really good pitcher. And I don't think he's actually going to be that in 2020. But, I've seen weirder things happen. Who would have thought that back during the days of, Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood and Carlos Zambrano, that it would be Rich Hill that would be the survivor 20 years later. I think that it's nice that the Orioles are going to give him every chance to, try to come back, because I do think there is a possibility that he could be a good pitcher going forward, and maybe someone you could even flip if there's actual trades this year, which I'm not sure there will be given the whole COVID-19 protocols and everything. But he's someone who's fascinating, especially when that splitter is working.
So before we get on to the game tonight, I do want to talk a little bit more about the roster, and I want to mention a guy like Cole Sulser and a few of these other bullpen arms that people might not know as much about. Do you see any bullpen arm that could really stand out for the Orioles this year?
Sulser is a good example of that. I think there's a possibility. I do want to see Givens kind of have a bounce back season. I think he still could. And Tanner Scott has been someone who's always fascinated me. He's one of those guys who you could see being, an amazing relief pitcher, or, Brad Pennington. His control is so mysterious, we'll just say, to be nice. But he's one of those guys like, I guess, Dellin Betances in New York as a prospect, that there is breakout potential. Yeah, he's older than Betances was when he broke out. But I really want to see, the team get Scott, give him as much time as possible, and see what see what happens. Because there's a kind of a benefit of being a poor team, is that you can try things that, a team that in contention can't try. The Yankees or the Astros or the Dodgers, they can't throw a guy like Scott out there nonstop, because they're in a pennant race and they're trying to win games right now. But you get to almost have open auditions when you're a rebuilding team, and that's one of the benefits a rebuilding team has. And I'd like to see the Orioles take advantage of that as much as they can.
So, like, Anthony Santander was an example last year of a player who played really, really well until it came to September and his numbers really, really fell off. Is there a player that you see this year in a 60-game shortened season that you think he could really perform?
Well, we already talked some about Hayes. I still think Rio Ruiz could be that kind of player. He's shown kind of that upside in the past, and he kind of at the end of some of his minor league seasons kind of fell off at the end. I would like to see them kind of phase Chris Davis out of the lineup. I'm still trying to figure out why he's on the roster. I mean, not to be cruel or anything, but at this point, it's hard to have almost anybody sitting when he's playing at this point.
Yeah, and he is in that lineup batting fifth tonight. So we'll see. He had a great spring training, so we might see a little bit of a comeback from Davis, but I guess we'll have to look at it and see how he does at the end of 60 games. But we do want to talk about tonight against the Boston Red Sox in Fenway Park, Nathan Eovaldi versus Tommy Milone. Do you kind of see a winner in this pitching matchup?
I think you can get to Eovaldi. The thing about Eovaldi is he's shown some progress in recent years, especially when the Red Sox went to the World Series and he was with the Rays at the start of the season. He's shown some progress because he was always a pitcher who, he threw in the mid 90s, but he always had a problem, putting away batters. So he always had such a kind of a mysteriously low strikeout rate for a guy who can hit 97, 98. He's kind of turned that back a little bit, but I think he is someone that you can get to. He's erratic, and I think if the Orioles are patient, Eovaldi doesn't really punch you out the way that some other pitchers do. So I if they show some patience, I think you can get to Eovaldi.
Yeah, and it's kind of a wrap up here for you, Dan. The Orioles are one of the best teams historically on opening day. They have a .539 winning percentage. Obviously, a lot of those years were a lot better than this year, but do you expect that to carry over and the Orioles will get a win tonight?
I just from an analytical standpoint, I probably say the Red Sox are the favorite. I'd prefer the Orioles to win, and I've seen some brutal opening days. I was at opening day in 1988 when I was 10, and that was I remember the game was such a slaughter. I think it was like 12-0, unless I'm confusing with another game, and they gave out these souvenir calendars, and people had lost such interest in the game that people were just they were stopping play so that they could kind of sweep off some of the paper airplanes that people were throwing onto the field from the calendars. So hopefully it'll be better than that particular opening day. But if you look at it this way, after 1988 came 1989, and that was one of the most. The ending wasn't that fun. I was 11 in 1989, and I was pretty heartbroken when Greg Olson threw the wild pitch against the Blue Jays at the end of the year. But that was a great year, and the Orioles were competitive that year, and they were competitive a few years after that. So if this is 1988, maybe it won't be that bad.
That would be great. Dan, thank you so much for your time. We hope you enjoy opening day as it goes on tonight, and hopefully the Orioles get a win. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's weird not being in a stadium for opening day today. It's
oh yeah, it is.
I'm like at my house. It's like, oh, I'm at my house drinking. Well, anyway, you guys have a great one.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thanks so much for Dan.
That was our guest, Dan Szymborski, writer for Fangraphs. Definitely gave us some great insight into what we can expect for the season. I didn't really expect Rio Ruiz to be a potential breakout for this year, but he does some guys like Austin Hayes and Santander and others. So it should be interesting to see.
Yeah, Rio is a guy I actually mentioned the other day to someone that I think could be a little bit of a breakout player. I'm not going to say he's a starter down the road. I'm not sure if that's his potential, but he did have a lot of potential when he was on the Braves, and they thought he was the third baseman of the future. So if he could find a little bit of more of that and what he did with the Braves and the minors, he's a replacement player, but maybe we get some a decent year out of him. And there are a lot of guys like that on this team that are kind of reclamation projects that you think maybe could become something. A Cole Stewart, or there are a lot of guys you could name really. Even a Wade LeBlanc is a guy that's kind of had a great past, but we're just trying to get his last few years out of him here. So I think it's going to be an exciting season to watch some of those guys.
Yeah, and obviously you want to see guys like Ryan Mountcastle at some point, hopefully soon. Break that lineup and even just the roster, just to see him get his reps. And guy I'm actually looking forward to is Cody Carroll, who made the bullpen. We haven't really seen much from him. He was in the trade with the Yankees for Zach Britton. I think he could bring a lot to the table, but he is an older guy, so I think this is kind of this season and next season are really his shots to really show what he's got.
Yeah, Cody Carroll throws hard. Like a lot of other guys in this bullpen. We talked about Tanner Scott before. Evan Phillips, another guy, and of course Miguel Castro can run it up there at 98. So he's another one of those guys that you look at. Can he find the control? Can he, throw strikes not just over the plate, but in and outside of the plate, and make sure that he's throwing quality strikes? That's kind of an issue with these guys that we get that can throw 100 miles an hour. So I do like him. Like you said, he came over on that Britton trade along with Dylan Tate, who's another guy we could possibly see when it comes off the injured list later this year. There are a lot of interesting names. You look up and down this roster, and we're going to go over that roster in a minute here. But there are a lot of reclamation projects and some failed prospects that have kind of found their way to the Orioles and are looking to be, something.
Yeah, so you did mention the lineup. We did want to touch on that, especially being opening day. It's good to see who your probable starters will be for the entirety of the season. I'll share my screen here in a moment. All right. So leading off, we have Austin Hayes. Second, we got Anthony Santander. In the 3-hole, Jose Iglesias. Renato Nunez batting cleanup. Chris Davis batting 5th. Hanser Alberto 6th. Rio Ruiz after him. And then to round out the lineup, we have Pedro Severino and DJ Stewart. Initial thoughts, Zach, on the lineup?
I don't like the first comment under the lineup. It says it's Murderer's Row because this lineup is killing me. I don't appreciate that. Seems like a lot of O's fans will probably share that opinion. I think this is the best lineup that Brandon Hyde has put out so far. I love the fact that Iglesias is hitting third. I think him and Santander and Austin Hayes at the top of the lineup is pretty dangerous. I mean, the bottom part of this 5 to 9 is not too dangerous, but the 1 through 4 with Nunez to round that out, big power bats, can hit a lot of home runs. I like it a lot. I'm excited to see Iglesias in his first year with the Orioles here. Finally, Austin Hayes is our everyday center fielder. It's been years, ever since 2017 when Dan Duquette brought him up at the end there. So I am extremely excited for that. I like the way the lineup's rounded out. I wish DJ Stewart wasn't playing, but that's probably a topic for another podcast. But what do you think about it?
I like it a lot. I mean, I don't know how much I would change. I don't know about Jose Iglesias in the 3-hole. That's kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. He's not a huge one-base guy, but he's a good hitter. So hopefully he can set the table for Nunez, who's probably your thumper in this lineup without Trey Mancini. And like you, DJ Stewart really doesn't do it for me. I'd like to see Cedric Mullins in that spot, but I figure, he'll get his chances, whether it's later in this game or tomorrow.
You're right, for sure. And I think it's interesting how Brandon Hyde kind of laid out this roster because it's a lot of outfielders. There's 5 outfielders. So you look at center field and right field are locked down with Hayes and Santander. They're going to play pretty much every day unless an injury happens or, they just need to take a breather. Maybe when we go to the Tampa Bay turf, they'll have to take a few days off. But they're going to play every day. And then you look at left field, and it's kind of a rotating wheel there of the 3 guys. Of Mullins and of course Velasquez even could be out there.
Yeah. And
DJ Stewart. And it's a lot of guys that could be playing left field for us this year. And I'm not really sure, and Dwight Smith Jr. I should mention as well, but I'm not really sure who out of those guys is going to show that they belong there this year. I think, center field and right field we've got there, but left field, I'm not sure any of those guys will really show it this year, but I'm hoping they do.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, and it could be a bridge to next year. And, do they give the reins over to Yusniel Diaz? Is that Ryan Mountcastle's spot? I mean, you have options there, and I think, as we've talked about before, most of their prospects lie in the outfield somewhere, whether it be Diaz, Heston Kjerstad, whoever that may be. So, a good lineup for opening day. Definitely guys to root for, some familiar names, and speaking of, who they're going to face, what about Nathan Eovaldi in the as the pitching matchup? What do you think about that?
I actually want to go back to a point you made just a second ago
Okay.
first,
Mhm.
about left field being Ryan Mountcastle's spot.
Mhm.
Obviously, he has that 7 days until he can gain an
Yep.
extra year of arbitration and come to the majors, which is probably going to happen, maybe a week after that at the latest. It's going to be pretty soon. So, maybe we see Dwight Smith Jr. DFA'd or whoever they decide to make a move on. But that will be Ryan Mountcastle's spot. And I think an outfield of Mountcastle and Hayes and Santander is pretty dangerous. It's almost as good as having Trey Mancini out there.
Mhm.
As far as Nathan Eovaldi goes, we have a career average against, or he has a career ERA against us of 5.26. So he's not very good against us. He has won some games, but obviously this is a lineup he hasn't really faced too much. These are a lot of guys that are new to the Orioles and new to this lineup this year. So I'm pretty confident we can hit Eovaldi. I don't think he's that good. He had almost a 6 ERA last year. I don't think he's what his former self was with Tampa Bay. So this is a guy I think we'll probably hit pretty well tonight.
Yeah, I know he was kind of like the hero of the playoffs when the Red Sox won the World Series, but he's kind of a closer by nature. I don't really see him going, lasting, 5 to 6 innings, 7 innings. And it's somebody that you could probably jump on pretty quick, especially if he's not flashing his best stuff right away. So yeah, I think he's somebody that you could see the Orioles winning against. He doesn't really scare me, and I think the Red Sox pitching staff as a whole is pretty subpar without Chris Sale, David Price, Eduardo Rodriguez now. So I think as his opening day starter, it's not a good sign for the Red Sox.
No, like you said, this roster that the Red Sox have put out in the field this year is not at all comparable to the last 3 or 4 years that we've seen. I said on Connor Newcomb's podcast that I think there's a good possibility that they go into a full rebuild at some point because it just doesn't look like they have any kind of farm system to supplement their team. They don't look like they have much talent that's young and that's really good. I mean, you look at Rafael Devers, he's amazing. But Michael Chavis is just okay. JD Martinez is aging quickly.
Yeah.
Benintendi, he's 4 years into his service time already, so we'll see what they decide to do with him. But there isn't a lot of young talent on this team. The pitching staff has either opted out or on the injured list, so that's not great either for them. This is a team I really feel like we can win a ton of games against this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too overeager and say, oh man, we're going to crush them this year, because there is still.
I think I'm gonna.
You go for it, man. Go for it.
I think I'm gonna.
I think there's still a talent gap there. I really do. But remains to be seen. I think with the rebuild, it's possible because with Ian Bloom taking over the reins, he's familiar with that concept with Tampa. But the Red Sox they always have a flux of cash that they want to compete with the Yankees year after year. It's not going to be possible. Their outlook for the next 5 years is not great, but it can also change. At any moment with with that flush cash that they have.
Yeah, I feel they're kind of in the same position as the Cubs are right now. They they recently won a World Series, and now their stars are either gone or aging a little bit. I'm really interested in JD Martinez to see what they do with him because he is really one of my favorite players in the league. I hate to root for a guy on the Red Sox, but I have to. I just like him a lot.
Yeah.
So I think his contract is the one they might unload next. They already unloaded Mookie. Mookie obviously just signed a huge deal in Dodger blue, so he's not coming back. Sorry, Jared Carabas. But it's a grim outlook for them. What do you think about tonight? Because we do historically play pretty well in Fenway Park. Do you think the Orioles will come out there and perform?
I do. I think I was jokingly, talking with our good buddy Justin. And he was like, give us a win projection for the year. And I said, 1 win. They're going to win opening day. They're going to go on a 59-game losing streak. Now, obviously, that's not completely true. I think they're going to win, actually. I'm confident. They always do very well on opening day. It just kind of seems like Orioles tradition. No matter what the roster looks like, no matter what's going on, they seem to perform well on opening day. So I'm gonna chalk up a W as of now.
Yeah, I think I do the same. I actually picked them in the MLB.com pick'em yesterday to lose, just because I'm really trying to win the pick'em. But
Okay.
it's a game that really could go either way. But I am going to say, for the sake of being an Orioles podcast, that we're going to win tonight by a 1 run. I'm going to say we're going to win 6-5.
Yeah.
I don't think Tommy Malone's going to pitch that well. I want to get your thoughts on him in a second.
Okay.
But Tommy Malone, he's okay. He's kind of been a reliever for a lot of his career. He came into the league and started, and then was a reliever for the Mariners last year, and actually put up a pretty solid WAR of 1.4. So that's not even too bad. For a pitcher, it's being an Oriole. He's a minor league signing. I don't think many people expected him to be a starter in this rotation, but that's just how it goes when you're a rebuilding team. And I'm looking forward to seeing him. I mean, he's a left-hander, which is kind of interesting. The Red Sox are keeping Verdugo out of their lineup because of that tonight. I'm interested to see him, but I can't say I think he's going to pitch all that great.
Yeah, there's an interesting article written by Ben Palmer in the pitcher list that kind of details that he's a decent pitcher. He's going to hopefully not, go out there and give a Ubaldo Jimenez performance, just blow up in the third inning every game. But he's a bridge guy, like Dan Szymborski was saying. Him, Wade LeBlanc, these are veteran type guys. They're bridge guys. They're going to get you innings. They're definitely going to eat innings, and they're not going to put pressure on the bullpen. And if he just does that, if he's just an innings eater, performs, somewhat admirably, I think you're looking at a decent season out of him, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I look at him and Wade LeBlanc kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I do think LeBlanc's a little bit better, but the advanced stats would tell you otherwise. But they're kind of in the same boat. They're minor league signings, and we'll see how they play. They're inning eaters, like you said. They're bridge players to the next great pitchers in Orioles history, hopefully. So for that, I like them. I do want to bring up a topic as kind of a big piece of Orioles news was John Means is going on the IL, as well as Hunter Harvey. But I think the big story here is Means. What's your concern level there? Are you, kind of thinking he'll be back in that Marlins series?
If it were up to me, I would not push him at all this year. I don't think it's worth it for him to go out there and press and try to, work through if he's dealing with any sort of injury or pain. I don't think it's worth him to go out there and get himself, injured further. I think if he's good to go and he feels fine and he's 100%, yeah, let him pitch. That's absolutely what you should be doing as a professional athlete. But I'm not pushing him this year. I think he's too valuable to the team.
Yeah, I think that's, kind of what Mike Elias echoed a little bit. He said, he is really a big part of our future and we want him at his best health. And you don't push guys with dead arms because historically just doesn't work out too well.
No,
it doesn't work out. I'd be surprised if, that would go well if they tried to put him in tonight or something like that. So I do like they're being cautious. It takes a guy out of your starting rotation that was probably going to win 2 or 3 or 4 games, however you think he's going to pitch this year. But it's not like we're going for a pennant. It's not like the Yankees losing one of their big pitchers. So, this is fine. You're looking more as a future outlook that you hope John Means is back for 2021. He's healthy. Same with Trey Mancini, obviously. Even if Mancini were to be ready for the end of the season, you're not going to put him in there in these circumstances. So there are a lot of guys you could probably say that about that you want to protect a little bit this year if there's a minor injury.
What about season predictions? What do you think in terms of team MVP, team rookie of the year, all that?
Well, rookie of the year is definitely going to be Austin Hayes. Even if he doesn't perform that well, he's probably the best rookie on this team no matter what. I just don't really see too many other guys who could be that. Team MVP, I am going to say Anthony Santander. I just look at the offensive numbers he's going to put up is probably going to lead the team. I think he is currently our best hitter without Trey Mancini. Austin Hayes might be able to take that crown. We'll see. But I think he's just overall batting in that 2 or 3 hole every day is going to put up some nice numbers across the board.
Yeah, I think for me, just to differ from you, I will say that Mountcastle is going to be the rookie of the year. I was actually going to say Hunter Harvey, but I don't trust those arm issues, and
agreed.
Yeah, I think I just don't think he's going to pitch enough to warrant that type of accolade. So I would say him, and then for the team MVP, I would also go Santander. I think he's, like you said, and especially pitching or playing rather in 60 games. I think it's going to behoove him, and that's just small sample size.
Yeah, and we also could do a team Cy Young because I think that's also an important part about who's the best pitcher. I'm going to go with Cole Saucer. I think it's an odd pick, but I really like the stuff. I love his makeup. Put up great numbers in AAA last year with Tampa Bay. I love anyone who is produced by Tampa Bay. I think they produce the best pitchers around. So for that, I'm going to say Cole Saucer is going to be the guy. I even think he could end up closing. It's a good possibility. He might even open a few games. We'll just see how it goes. But I love Cole Saucer.
Yeah, it threw me for a loop there. I'm actually going to go with Alex Cobb. I think he's fully healthy for the first time in a long time. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think coming out of the gates, their teams might underestimate his stuff, but I think that splitter still plays really, really well. Some of his off-speed stuff as well. And, he'll be pitching, probably in the 2 spot there. So he's going to get a lot of innings, and I think he's going to perform well out of the gates, especially. I think he'll have to play the Marlins too. So the Red Sox and Marlins. So should have a pretty good 2 first outings with the Orioles, at least.
Yeah, and as it is our opening day pregame show, I do want to run down the Red Sox lineup. Leading off is Andrew Benintendi playing left field. Batting second is JD Martinez DHing. Batting third, Rafael Devers playing third. Batting fourth is Xander Bogaerts at short. Batting fifth is Kevin Pillar in right field. Batting sixth is Christian Vasquez catching. Batting seventh, Michael Chavis at first base. Batting eighth is Jackie Bradley Jr. in center. And then Jose Barraza rounding it out, playing second base. And Matt's going to put it up right there for you. And like that tweet says, Verdugo and Moreland are sitting with Tommy Milone on the mound. I was excited to see Verdugo tonight, actually. He was a favorite of mine with the Dodgers when he was coming up through their system. So I was looking forward to seeing him debut for the Red Sox.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a pretty weak lineup, like especially 5 through 9. I mean, yikes, it's not great. Kevin Pillar, he's had some good years. I think some of his best years were with Toronto when he could hit those line drives off the turf and get like triples out of them. So I don't really see the same happening, in Fenway. But, obviously, like you mentioned, there's some holes in this lineup. Verdugo not playing is big, missing Mookie Betts. Christian Vasquez isn't exactly a world beater as a catcher. So definitely much less production I'm seeing out of this team compared to last year.
Yeah, I looked at this lineup and I said 2018 Orioles. This looks like the 2018 Orioles lineup where you have those few stars at the top there. Like we have Machado and Scope and a few of those guys that Adam Jones was still around then that made this lineup look good. And then you've got the guys who just aren't that great at the bottom of the order. Like Jose Peraza is a guy I never saw the Red Sox starting on opening day, but that's just the way it is, I guess, for them right now. Yeah, like you said, Kevin Pillar, he's kind of past his prime. He's still an okay player. He's a good outfielder. He can cover a lot of ground. He probably does well in DRS and OAA, but I wouldn't say that he's anything what he used to be. And Mitch Moreland is another big bat. It's not going to be in the lineup tonight either. So this is a definite weak lineup. It just looks like there's a few stars thrown in with a bunch of pretty average players.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, there's not, besides Chavis, obviously Rafael Devers and Bogaerts, it's not a lot of youth, really. So for a team that's really not going anywhere, they're kind of middling. Like you said, they need to find direction, and they have the money to spend, but they're going to have to also build from within coming up.
Yeah, and I got to say, I respect what the Red Sox did. They went out and they won a World Series. They gave up a lot of their prospects to win that World Series. They gave up Moncada, and to get Chris Sale, that worked out for them well. They gave up a lot of guys to get where they did, and that's fine. That's probably the model that a lot of teams follow when they try to win a World Series. But they've kind of left themselves in a spot right now where they don't have much youth, like you said, and they don't really have many good prospects. They're probably bottom 5 in the power rankings as far as farm systems go. They went out in the first round of the draft this year and drafted a guy nobody had in their top 100, Nick York. So that was a shocker. But obviously, I think that they are trying to find that direction and probably will have one by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think so. Do you have any picks to click tonight? Any players that catch your eye for the Orioles and maybe for the Red Sox?
I think Pedro Severino is a possibility, with the way he's been swinging the bat lately in summer camp. He's looked so good. I think he's probably someone I get excited about for tonight. He's batting all the way down the 8 hole, but I just see him as a guy who really can take that next step this year, even defensively and offensively. Just taking that step into being not one of the bottom 5 catchers in the league. And I like him a lot, so I'm excited to see him swing the bat.
Yeah, I participate, and I'm sure you do too, in our good friend Eric Ardides hashtag Dong City.
It's the best.
Definitely a big thing among Orioles Twitter. And I actually went a little bit off the beat with Rio Ruiz. I like him, against that short porch in right field. Think he could sneak something around the Hardy pole, JJ Hardy pole. So
it's definitely a Hardy pole.
Anything else, Zach, before we wrap this pod up?
No, I mean, we're about a little over an hour from the Orioles taking the field for the first time. I'm extremely excited. I hope this is a good pregame show because, we're extremely excited and we're ready to go. This is what we've been waiting for since March, and it's finally here. I thought this day would never come. This is extremely exciting. Baseball's back. The Orioles are back. I'm ready to go. Well
said. Couldn't have said it any better myself. So as always, subscribe on YouTube, listen on our audio channels. We would appreciate a review if you go to iTunes and give us either a 5-star review or, give us a written review of the show. That would be great. We will feature your review on the podcast if you do so. Shout out Cousin Smith. I believe he was one of our reviews as well.
He was.
So, just a reminder, tonight's game on Masson at 7:30 p.m. And tomorrow and Sunday, I believe, are both 1:35 start times. Yep. So look for that. And we're looking forward to opening day. Hope you are too. Thanks so much for listening. And we will talk to you next week.